So episode 4 of the CoronaCast is going to be a bit different than what it has been the past 3 episodes. We've been talking a lot about just the coronavirus itself. We kind of went off the rails last episode, but we're going to continue off the rails. I'm Brad Brewer, joined by Alex Galbraith, and then our guest is who was supposed to be our guest for episode 3, and then the file corrupted, and she's back for episode 4. Sydney Miles, thanks for coming back. So yeah, like I said, we're not going to be talking too much about the coronavirus because I feel like things have kind of been like not settling down, but I feel like the panic levels are kind of lowering through the entire thing. It seems like we're kind of like on our way. Like we see a light at the end of the tunnel now. So we're going to talk.
There's only so much you can talk about with that too. Every day, maybe some new numbers are coming out, but the virus is there, it's present, and you just got to know how to deal with it and move on.
Yeah, so instead we're going to be talking about problems that are actually, just in our world. They're in our world before the coronavirus came, and they're going to be in our world after the coronavirus came. And the first thing we're going to talk about is something that, like, it's an article, or not article, part of a book that Sydney shared on her Snapchat story. I saw it, and I was like, hey, that looks really fun. Let's talk about that. That's very controversial. I'm sure we might make some people mad, because I like doing that. So I'm going to go ahead and read the quote, and then from that she highlighted that she posted on her story, and I'll put it up on screen during the episode. But it says, asking for a system that was built for the express purpose of oppression to, quote, please stop oppressing me is nonsense work. I should preface this by saying this is about feminism. Like, that's the main topic we're talking about. The only task worth doing is fully dismantling and replacing that system. That is why I cannot associate myself with a feminism that focuses... this is a dementally. I thought I was going to be an English minor. Dementally, whatever. On self-empowerment, whose goals include not the full destruction of corporate culture, but merely a high percentage of female CEOs and military officers. A feminism that requires no thought, no discomfort, and no real change. If feminism is universal, if it is something that all women and men can get on board with, then it is not for me. If feminism is nothing more than personal gain disguised as political progress, then it is not for me. If by declaring myself a feminist, I must reassure you that I am not angry, that I pose no threat, then feminism is definitely not for me. I am angry, and I do pose a threat. So, Sydney, I want to ask you kind of what, like, how did you find this? And then, like, what, like, passion, like, I don't know. Like, I feel like this is something that, there's a lot of passion behind that.
Yeah.
Just that section alone.
Well, I get a lot of questions as to why I'm not a feminist, because I'm very open about it. And I think there is a corrupt mindset with the word feminism and feminists in general. Because you've got like the radical feminists and like the feminazis that everybody knows about. And people kind of obscure the line between self-empowerment and feminism. The textbook definition of feminism is just like equal rights for women and for everyone, really. But a lot of people will put like a face to feminism, and it is a woman, like God is a woman, the future is female type thing. And I don't like getting behind that because I'm for equal rights. I don't want women to overpower men, which a lot of feminists want. For the most part.
So do you think like the term like feminism, like, because it sounds like, because feminism is basically egalitarianism, like almost dressed up and kind of spun in a way, like, because that's how they kind of want you to think that it's presented. But like I assume like you don't think that, you think it's something beyond, like, it's more of a power play.
Yeah, basically I think it could be an excuse for a lot of women to act like monsters in a way of degrading men and playing the oppressed role of saying, like, a woman might not have worked too hard to get a position at some office, and a man gets it before her. And she thinks that just because she's a woman, she deserves that role, and she believes that she has worked so hard for this, but in reality she's not cut out, and she doesn't have the education or the mindset for it, and she plays the victim. And for a whole idealism to be the foundation, to be that the woman is a victim, I'm just not about it.
Well, I want to ask, you're not about that, and I admire that. Why do you feel that a lot of women are like that? Because, I think we can all agree that, we all support the move for equal rights and for all this equality all the way around. That's kind of how I feel too. That everybody, men, women, whoever you may be, should be equal, should get those equal opportunities and chances and things like that. But why do some, do you think, take it to that next level?
I think because some people don't believe society can change, and history does have a habit of repeating itself. And so, like, the Historical Feminism Act is amazing. It's the reason why we can vote. It's the reason why we can have jobs as doctors and all that. And when some women, not all women, but some women will take that to an extreme and think that that is still in play today. When reality, society has changed, it's the 21st century, and women have a lot more rights than we used to. It's not even how it was 20 years ago, let alone 100 years ago. So a lot of people can miscue that line.
I kind of want to ask about a part that, because a couple of highlighted parts in the further parts of the book that you sent me stuck out. This word, this interests me. It says the word feminist acts as a shield from criticism, and many of these women are celebrated as heroes, because what you see is you'll see people like us, 18, 19-year-olds, they're not even really that advocates, but they have they put feminists or whatever in their bio or something, and they wear it as a badge, and even though they don't really do anything. Do you see that as a problem?
Yeah, because that has a line to do with misconstruing the name of feminism. I know that's not how you pronounce it, but I couldn't think of it. But yeah, I don't remember where I was going with that.
It's all good.
Nah, sorry.
It's all
John,
good.
stop.
Yeah, I noticed her cat John, who she introduced in the previous episode. It's corrupted, so they're gone.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's gone,
Yep.
Unfortunately.
Yep.
So do you think the next part on what I'm reading that you highlighted? I think you did highlight really good parts that are really, easy to they're easy debate points. I feel like these are the parts that stick out, and these are the main points of this piece of literature. This is, if you are surrounded by people who have behaved the same way as you do, you don't have to question your own choices. And so, it really seems, and I can agree with this, that there's an echo chamber behind feminists, and because it feels like if you're not, because do you feel like if you went up to someone who you describe as a modern feminist or whatever, who's someone who is practicing in these things that you don't agree with, in the sense that they're not being a true feminist in terms of the the classical sense, but they're just kind of wearing it as kind of that power play and kind of being deceiving, how do you feel like those people would interact with you if you kind of call them out on it? Because I feel like it would end pretty dirtily.
And it has in the past. For the most part, nothing you can say will change someone's mind that's that far gone in the idea of modern feminism. There's no chance that you can change their mind. So for the most part, I kind of just let it be, though it's really frustrating to see a good majority of women my age thinking that way.
No, I agree 100% with that. I think, like you said, there might be a lot of people that are maybe too far gone. Everybody, regardless of whether we're talking about feminism or it could be political parties, whatever, they're going to have different opinions, different views on things and how they believe things should be. And unfortunately, in this day and age, as you mentioned, you disagree on something like that, and it's going to end usually fairly badly. People don't know where they have to have a civil conversation about those things, which to me is very, very unfortunate. And I mean, we should be able to be a little more civil than that, and maybe not necessarily that your way is right or their way is right, that you're trying to convert one another to your way or to your side, but I mean, just to actually discuss and hear different viewpoints and maybe sway each other a little bit. So I think that's interesting, but admirable on your part as well.
So if we can kind of get off topic a little bit and kind of talk about the point that Alex brought up, which is I feel like everything is so polarizing and everything is so, I mean, because people call it PC culture or snowflake culture or whatever, and I feel like that's I don't know, I feel like that's a bit harsh at this point, but I can understand the frustration because there are lots of different people that, if you challenge their ideas, they like associate their ideas or their personality, like who they are, with the ideas. And so if you attack the idea, they feel like you're attacking the person as well. And I feel like that's a big problem. And how does that? Because now we talked about the problem, and now I kind of want to start talking about solutions. How do you guys think that like we can solve that to kind of turn around to where we can actually start talking about things without taking offense to everything?
That's a really, really good question. Really, that's something that I'm noticing. I coach basketball a little bit. I've coached kids in the middle school area. And I think we see, we have guys our age and even some adults that are older than us that are these snowflakes or that these too sensitive. But I'm seeing it more in this younger generation too, where these kids don't know how to handle criticism, whether it's legitimate or constructive, or they don't know how to handle losing. And I think that all ties into this, this snowflake culture. And a lot of it comes down to maturity. I think it depends on how you're raised. I think it's depending on how you are treated among others. If you go your whole life, maybe from a young kid all the way through college, and you're never really challenged, if you're never really told no, or no one ever really criticizes you, or does something that is different from what you're used to, you're going to go your whole life thinking that you're great and that this is how the thing should be. And then when something throws that off a little bit, you freak out and feel like you're getting attacked. But really, you're just dealing with the real world, because as we all know, the real world, not everybody's going to agree with you. Not everybody's going to be nice to you. And you have to be mature enough to understand that's the way it is. And you have to be mature enough to figure out how you're going to handle that yourself. And that's something I could go on and on about, because I see it from, young kids. I see guys that are, my superiors that act horribly. And I just think, what went wrong with you to the point that you act like this now, where I know people that are my age that are better equipped to handle the world and are better, more mature and capable of handling things than you are.
Do you have anything to say on that, Sydney?
Not really.
Okay.
I can't really think on the spot with stuff like that.
Well, and I mean, Alex he gave a pretty fleshed out answer, and so he, which is good. But you kind of talked about how it is more prevalent with our younger, like people our age. And we do see people who are older and that like kind of almost have like learned. I'm not sure if they've learned the snowflake culture from the younger generation or if they've just always been that way. But where do you think that came from? Like, do you think it's because a lot of times when I see a drastic change in how the boomers, how they are compared to like our generation, the internet is like the main difference, right? How much like we're able to share all of this information. But I would think that with the internet and with all this information being thrown at us, that would make us like more just we like it'll increase our ability to resist taking offense to stuff. Like I would think you have all these different ideas and information coming at you. You'd think the internet would even help that and have us grow thicker skin. Like I don't. Any thoughts?
One would think. You're right. I mean, one would think that with the internet, especially this day and age, you put anything out there. I mean, it could be just on like a Reddit page. You go through all the sections and you're reading people's comments. Could be on a YouTube video, people discussing in the comments or something like that. You'd think that hearing other people's opinions or stuff like that, that's kind of how I am. I don't care. I'm to the point where I don't care. I hear what people have to say, but if you think differently than me, I'm not going to hate you for that. I'm not going to, shun you for that. I'm going to respect your opinion and move on. I don't have to agree with it. And I think a lot of it, especially within a younger generation that maybe goes up to where we are right now, and I hate to say this, I think a lot of it's parenting. I think a lot of it comes from the parents and how they're raising these children. I can't speak for necessarily the adults and people that are older than us, but these people that have this snowflake culture that can't do no wrong, that's coming from the parents because they believe their children can do no wrong. And that's terrible. I was raised to the point where if I did something wrong, I'm sure many of you were too, if I did something wrong, I was, there were consequences to face for that. You're grounded. You got something taken away. Maybe you got spanked. I don't know. But, nowadays, children apparently can't do anything wrong. It's always someone else's fault. It's the teacher's fault that they're doing bad in class. It's another kid's fault that their kid's doing this. It's the coach's fault that their kid's not good enough to make the team. And then when the parents are doing that in the home or when their family's telling that to the kids, it brainwashes the kids and they believe that themselves all the way up through high school, college, and then They just don't know how to handle it as they get more and more into the real world. And that is a scary thing to think about, because these younger kids, and maybe people within our age too, are the ones that are going to be like our future leaders here in a few years. And we're going to be dealing with that, very, very soon.
Sydney, I want to ask you, because there's like college campuses are also like, I feel like that's like almost like the epicenter. That's like how the media portrays like what the epicenter is for all this kind of snowflake culture. But you kind of like, well, when me and Alex were going through college, you kind of just went straight into the real world. You're a manager at Natural Grocers. You already have yourself a full-time job. Is it like, has that affected the way, because you strike me as someone who's never been a snowflake, but like in the sense of like saying that, but like, is it like how is it, do you see that like that kind of culture and work, or is it, I don't know, I'm just asking from like as someone who hasn't had a full-time job yet.
There's gonna be a sense of entitlement in someone, no matter where you work. It depends on, just like, again, how Alex said, how they were raised. Though I love my dad, I have a great relationship with my dad, but it was not necessarily tough. He was just a tough lover. He was very tough on me, and he did that for a purpose, to make me grow with a thick skin, I think. So I don't think I've ever been a snowflake in that term. And working automatically, since I was 17, I think that has given me another thick skin, if that makes any sense, just because I've had to deal with a whole lot of personal drama and still had to prioritize my work, because it's a full-time job. I am a manager, I have to prioritize that. Even though something's wrong going in my life, I have to use that thick skin to my advantage.
Yeah,
I have a question on that too. Just with you being a manager at the grocery store and stuff, at Natural Grocers, do you run into that with like maybe some of the employees that work there, maybe people that you're above? Do you run into people that maybe are kind of have of that snowflake mentality, or maybe don't handle criticism well, or handle orders well from someone like you?
No, for the most part. I mean, not in the setting that I'm in now. Everyone relatively listens to their higher ups. I mean, there's going to be some people that don't listen, but for the most part, if you have respect, they will listen. And for the most part, the entire crew respects me, and I respect them. But in past jobs, the less serious they are, if that makes any sense, the less I don't really know how to word it. Less serious the job is, the less they probably respect you.
Sure. No, that definitely makes sense.
So I kind of want to try to loop back to the whole like original feminism conversation, because we talked kind of about like what we think, a possible solution, or probably like where we can nip the problem at the bud. And I think parenting is one big thing that we kind of like talked about. But kind of back to this whole like how we can, perhaps revive the whole idea of classic feminism, which I mean, like you said, Sydney, I mean, we've made strides in terms of America, with women being able to vote now, and just women being like taking more and more positions of power. But I mean, even that, like this article said, like that's not what true feminism like is. Like it's good, but it's not like getting the job done per se. So in your mind, what would be the solution, I guess, or what's the like end goal look like, and how do you get there?
I don't think that there really is a solution, because society is never going to be perfect. No matter how hard we try, it's not going to be perfect. It might be perfect in some people's minds because their outlooks might be a little bit different, but for the most part, with feminism, they want a higher percentage of women based on like ratio of men to women. They want more women in office, more women in but that's not what feminism is. It's equal rights. If that's kind of being hypocritical with the whole definition of feminism, that you would want a higher percentage of women, but in my generation at least, I don't think there is going to be a solution. Not with the mindset, especially with Gen Z coming up. They're going to be raised on that mentality that feminism is just for the woman, not for the men. And so I don't think there's going to be a solution for a very long time, if ever.
Okay. And I just kind of had like, I guess, a theory pop in my mind, because one thing that I've kind of thought about, like, and the idea of this goes back to the 2016 general election, of the idea of the silent majority, and how, like, in the, like, on the other side of that, the very vocal minority. And, you know, I kind of talked about, you know, how does the internet not, like, make us feel like have thicker skin? But I feel like the internet gives people, like, you know, people in the minority, which in a good way, it's good that people in the minority have their voice, but it feels like they're louder. Like, have you guys noticed this, where, like, it feels like there's, like, people who have unpopular, like, kind of radical opinions, and they drown out everyone who, like, in my opinion, kind of have, like, more common sense. Like, I feel like people who, I mean, we saw it. Like, we thought Clinton was going to win the election. You know, what everyone was saying on social media, what, like, the polls are saying, we thought Clinton was going to win the election. But the silent majority ended up being a thing. So do you think that's, like, do you think there's a silent majority? Do you think it's kind of like a minority of, you know, the people like, you know, these kind of, I would, like, I'm not sure if radical feminists is kind of the term you would just say to describe just modern feminists in general. Like, I don't know how you would label that. But do you think there, like, a majority of people are, like, you know, kind of have common sense and are more egalitarian than modern feminists, and, you know, that are more, you know, open to people's opinions than snowflakes?
Yeah, I mean, there's always going to be a louder group. And for the most part, all that we see on media is the feminazis and the radical opinion of all that type of feminism. So I lost my train of thought. Oh,
It's all good. Alex, do you have anything to say? Or unless did you get your train of thought back?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
No, I mean, I actually didn't hear much of your question the first time. I'm sorry. What was the?
Basically, I was talking about the, like, existence of the silent majority, and, like,
Right.
if you believe that most people, like, there is, like, a silent majority of people that, you know, are more egalitarian than, like, you know, what Sydney believes. Like, you know, Sydney talks about, like, kind of the modern feminism, and, like, there's the silent majority of people that are more open to ideas and open to conversation, and that the minority is actually the people that are snowflakes. Like, do you think that could possibly be the case?
I could see that being the case, and when it comes to that silent majority theory, and when we discuss that, whether it's with the election or whether one here, that very well could be the case, because people are afraid to say those things. You know, I reference the election. I think a lot of people, and the reason that President Trump won was because they were afraid to come out and say that I support Trump. They were afraid to come out and say I'm going to vote for him, because they were afraid of the backlash they were going to receive from everybody else who was against him. And I think in this scenario, there might be a silent majority in this case, where maybe they're afraid to come out and voice their opinions. Maybe they're afraid to come out and say what they believe in because of the backlash they may receive. And in those cases, it's easier just to keep silent, to keep your beliefs to yourself, just to avoid the backlash, just to avoid the criticism or anything you may receive from that. And that's very sad. So I do believe that it very well could be the case. But, you know, I think we got to get to a point at some point, not just with this scenario, but with all the others, where we stop having a silent majority, where I wish we could get to a point where people could voice their opinions, whatever they may be, and people aren't just going to eat them alive for them.
Yeah, and, like, even now, like, talking about the whole idea of, like, how I think there's a silent majority, I'm just, like, I'm anticipating getting a message or something saying, like, I'm defending Trump or something, you know? Like, I just feel like that always happens. Like, you say one thing that's, like, I feel just kind of, you know, I try to be as, like, split down the middle as possible, as centrist as possible. And I believe politically I am kind of around that center. But, like, you know, I feel like you see a lot of people left and right that say, you know, if you sympathize on anything with the left, the right will come at you, and vice versa. So we can kind of, I guess, move on with this. And this may make me look like a snowflake with how I posted this. But moving on from feminism, which is a pretty, you know, controversial, sensitive, like, topic, to an even more controversial and sensitive topic in religion. Man, I'm going, like, we're pulling out all the stops today. So earlier today, the day of filming, I released a Facebook post saying, and I quote, "It's so clear why people have problems with the Christian church. People within the church spend more time attacking their brothers and sisters than they spend fostering their relationship with Christ. If there is any challenge that discourages me and plants doubts in my mind about my faith, it is these people." And so with that post, yes, like, I mean, I'm a Christian. Alex is as well. Sydney, as we talked, hasn't really been religious. So we kind of have both sides of the aisle here to talk about this. I think that's pretty crucial to kind of have an outlook from the inside of the church and the outside. The context and what inspired me is because someone that, like, especially during the whole, quarantine stuff is, I started watching Elevation Church and like Pastor Stephen Furtick, his kind of content and his sermons and stuff, and it was really like it's really it's not just inspiring stuff, it's challenging stuff, but I mean it just, I don't know, it was definitely, if he put out stuff I need to hear, but since he's popular, it's kind of a mega church in Charlotte, but people were like, I saw YouTube videos of people attacking him and saying, that he, would say one thing and they just they said like that's heresy, like, and they take, it's like one verse that like they feel like he twisted in a weird way, then that's heresy. Like thinking that the main thing I remember is he said that like Jesus can't change like unbelievers, like he can't change the fact that you're an unbeliever, and the guy said that was heresy. And I don't know, that just really set me off because it just feels counterintuitive. Like it just makes you feel like crap. I mean, it also makes you feel like doubt what you like believe. Like, is this really the kind of place I want to be in? Like, in the sense that I'm in this thing where everyone's supposed to be loving and inclusive and open, and that's what the foundations of Christianity are. But that's not what it seems.
Yeah, coming from the guy within the church, I guess you're right. I think people definitely, unless you're, and I've run into it in my days, unless you're just uber Christian, holier than thou, I'm the best Christian there is, and I go by the Bible every single day of my life and stray from it. People are human, and they have those human, feelings and emotions of, you're going to criticize somebody, you're going to judge somebody, you're going to, maybe what I'm trying to say along those lines are basically, you're not going to act in the most Christian way all the time. And you're right, though, that when you're in a place like the church, you shouldn't, when you go there, you shouldn't feel like you're being judged. You shouldn't feel like, afraid that, someone saw me doing this and they're going to judge me in the church, they're going to call me out in the church, or they're going to give me false teachings, or whatever it may be. And going from what you just said within the Elevation Church, I think that's ridiculous. I think the people that just kind of that flipped on him are ridiculous. But the thing is, you go back to the dawn of time. We've had people like that. We've had people like that are gonna criticize. I mean, the people that are preaching, the people that are bringing the word, people that are gonna try to find any way, kind of as we were talking about earlier, to stick to their beliefs and their beliefs only. And you're gonna run into that regardless of where you are. But I do think it's a pretty bad situation. I think you're right, Brad. If you go into a place of worship like that, if you want to be within a church family like that, yes, people are going to judge. Yes, people are going to have these human emotions. Yeah, people are going to sin because we aren't without sin. Everybody does it. Even the ones that are the most Christian, the most religious. But if you're going to be a part of that, then you should feel welcomed and you should feel respected, and you shouldn't have to worry about those things when you go there. And I think that definitely is something that we have to deal with. I think a lot of people deal with more than they say, or more than we know of, and that's kind of a scary thing.
Yeah, and Sydney, I want to ask you, as someone like who isn't religious, I don't know like the reasons why, but do you see this at all? And like, are there kind of reasons that are kind of similar to this or exactly like this that kind of fuel your kind of hesitation or just your decision not to get involved in all this?
It's actually exactly alike. Like I said, I've never truly been very religious. I always felt off when I went to church. I remember the last day I actually stepped foot in a church, they kicked my priest out. They basically made him basically made him quit and leave. And I just kind of sat through that entire, I guess, session. I don't, whatever. And I just had to sit and think that why would, it was a long period leading up to them kicking him out of the church. He preached about some things that some people didn't agree with, a few choice people, and they spread it all throughout the rest of the church. And they talked a bunch of non-Christian words, in my opinion, about him. And then when he finally stepped down, they all cried and asked him to stay and said, like, why would you do this? And I just had to step back and think about what a real Christian was, and if I was surrounding myself with that. And I wasn't. And at that point, I didn't know what real Christianity was and if that was. So at that point, I just kind of abandoned the church and never went back.
And see, that is like, speaking from like a whole Christian standpoint, because as a Christian, you know, you like it when other people are Christians, you know, you like it when people have that experience and it impacts them in a positive manner. Now, like, I mean, Sydney's like one of my best friends, and so like, you know, I don't care. Like, you know, she has her own beliefs and that doesn't impact any way I think of her naturally, but like, that it really sucks to hear that, like, you know, that's your first impression. And for these pastors, whatever, that are like attacking other pastors, and it's like you said, this congregation should care. They should want people to join them. But because of this climate that they created, they cast not only the priest out, but they cast you out inadvertently, because that's what happened. And that's just like, you really think about, I think the whole thing is, the way I can sum it up is, they're kind of getting away from the point of Christianity, in my opinion. Like, you can know everything about the Bible you want, you can know it front and back, but like, if that's all you worry about, like, well, what he said contradicts this one verse, like, over here, that like literally like two people in the world ever read, which is, you know, that's like hyperbolic, but you understand what I'm saying. Like, if you're like the true Bible thumper, like, you lose the love and the care for people, then it doesn't matter. Like, I mean, isn't it? I'm pretty sure that's a verse. I don't have a verse, but like if it's not for love, then nothing matters, right? So like, and that's not, I don't think that should really be. I mean, I think love is kind of the quintessential objective of every single person, is to kind of find love, whether it's through a person, career, whatever. So yeah, it's really disheartening. So but what is that makes, so we're kind of moving on. Like, I kind of just created a question in my own head with that. It's off topic, but that's how I roll. Would you guys agree with that statement, that I feel like we're all, like, as humans, in pursuit of some kind of love?
I would agree with that 100%. I just, like you said, it doesn't necessarily have to be through a person. I think when you hear the word love, you immediately think of being with somebody, and, you know, finding somebody to eventually end up marrying and, you know, just having a life with. And I think that's a goal for a lot of people. But that's not what the only definition of love. That's not what love has to be associated with. You know, you could go your entire life without finding somebody, but have this passion and this love for a career, or for, you know, helping others, or whatever it may be, and dedicate all of your time and your life to that one thing. I think, you know, you could even, you know, throw in passion along with that, with love. You know, you're trying to find something that you love. You're trying to find something that you're passionate about. Who knows what that may be? Who knows when you're going to find that? But I would agree with 100%, because if you don't find that, love in whatever it is, person, career, hobby, whatever it is, what do you have? You know, what do you have? You don't have much to look forward to. You don't have something that wakes you up in the morning and drives you and makes you want to get out and do something. You're just you're a body. And I get there are other people out there that might care for you, and you're going to be out doing other things. But if you don't have that inner feeling, something within you that wants to make you do these things, that kind of drives you, there's nothing there. I would agree with that 100%, although I've never really thought about it like that.
Sydney, your thoughts?
Yeah, I think there can be a very fine line with, it's very important not to get fixated on if the fact that you can't find someone, or you can't find love in your career, or if you can't even find love in yourself. It's very important not to get fixated on that, because you will become very pessimistic about life. And I think it's very important to be kind of a realist. I've always been a realist. My dad raised me that way. And so I've always thought, like, yeah, I might not love my career now. I might not have a love interest. I might not love myself right now. But that's not to say in the future I won't have that. And it's that kind of motivation, if you don't already have it, to go find it and not to fixate on the negative about it.
Yeah, and I agree, because I think, like, you know, there's two, like, there's always a reason to, like, live, right? And I know that's, like, that might be, I don't feel like that's insensitive to say, because I do believe there's always a reason to live, but, like, you know, it's you're either in pursuit of love, and that's, like, why you're living, is because you are pursuing love in whatever fashion. But then when you find that love, you're living because of that love. So I feel like the script, like, would change, like, the reason would change, but there's always still, like love is kind of in the foundation. I sound like a super, like, optimist and just, like, super, just, like, a lovey person, when in reality, when you said, like, about being pessimistic and realist about life, I am totally, though. Like, I am sometimes realist, sometimes pessimist, usually not optimist. So, like, I don't know. Maybe I'm just, I don't know. Maybe I'm just, this is the good Brad. You just found Brad on a good day. But yeah, I mean, that's really, I don't know. We're going philosophical. Dr. Merritt would be proud, Alex. Dr. Merritt, she would be proud. So let's go ahead and kind of talk about the third topic that I had lined out, and it's kind of like, I gave a disclaimer because Sydney is someone, like, she doesn't like sports, but it's a sports story, but it goes beyond sports, and it's about something that happened a couple weekends ago from the time of this, like, when this episode was released. NASCAR driver Kyle Larson, he was, like, fired from his racing team, Chip Ganassi Racing, and all his sponsors were removed, and his life just fell apart because of one word he said. He was on, like, an iRacing race, like a racing simulator, kind of like a video game, but more realistic, with some other, like, guys that were streaming it, and he was trying to figure out, like, hey, if these people can hear me, and he thought it was a good idea to say, well, the N-word, to, you know, see if people would hear him. And, of course, people heard him, and everyone could hear him, and, of course, everything followed. So I want to ask, not really about, like, the impact, because, you know, his life is kind of very drastically changed for the worse now. But I want to ask, and this is something I didn't preface you guys on before we get into this podcast, but it's something I posted this when I figured out about it, or I found out about this thing happening. I said that, like, words don't necessarily slip. Like, him saying that makes me feel like that word is out of his vocabulary, especially when you say it casually, like, on a group of friends. That it feels like, you know, you didn't just say that word once, just out of, like, it just came out, like, you know, we talk Christianity, Satan came down and put that word in your head and you said it. Like, I think it's beyond that. Do you guys agree on this?
You know, that was one of the first words that he said, you know, whether, you know, they were testing something, or I agree. I don't think, if there's a word that I haven't said right now, or there's a word that I know of, you know, that I don't use very often, it's probably not going to slip out in the heat of the moment. Another word might, but maybe not that specific one. And so I agree with you that, you know, he might use that a little bit more on a regular basis, or has used it more at some point than he would obviously like to admit. And you're right, I think you said it best. For some reason, he chose to use that one word. I don't know why. People don't think in the moment. And a lot of people don't think, you know, maybe in a scenario like that, oh, no one's going to hear me. Maybe he was, I don't know what goes through his mind. I don't know what goes through a lot of people's minds when they say stuff like that. But yeah, I agree. I think there's a little bit more to it than just a slip.
Yeah, and that word is much more impactful than, like, you know, we say, like, you said some other words might slip, and, you know, I think we can all feel that. Well, they may slip or they may not. You may just, you know, throw it out there. And, you know, they're kind of fun words. But, ASUTV, we're going to try not to say that. But, like, Cindy, like, what do you think? Do you think that, like, you know, you have to, in order for this word to slip, like, I mean, odds are you probably said it at least occasionally.
For the most part, yeah. it has to be part of your mind to even for it to come out. So I do agree with that. And is he very popular for the most part?
He's like he's a mid kind of like in terms of NASCAR. Like he's kind of up there. He's won a few races, but he's not like a superstar. No.
Yeah. Well, because I was gonna ask because I mean PewDiePie did the same thing, and I mean he got a bunch of backlash for it, but he's still extremely popular, and
Yeah.
he still makes jokes about it, and I don't really agree with that. But there has to be some moderation, even if you're moderately well known to really well known like PewDiePie. And if you go on to a platform like that, you're gonna have to watch what you say. And he probably thought maybe he was invincible because he wasn't well known, but and that alone just kind of proved how much one word can affect the average man.
Yeah, and that's a real interesting point because first of all, because one of his fellow drivers, Joey Logano, was talking on an interview on NBC, and he was saying like he's representing like a bigger brand, like, and this is the same way like if you were at work at at Natural Grocers and you say this word, oh, it's hard. Like you're gonna get hardcore reprimanded. I mean, fired or like suspended or have to go. I mean, he's having to go through like sensitivity training that NASCAR provides or something like. And in terms of PewDiePie, I feel like we're kind of like that's the online world, and like especially like I know the esports world is kind of one that's developing, and you see people like Twitch or YouTube will give like slaps on the wrist, but won't just completely end you. Do you guys think that it would be a good thing for like which side do you agree? Do you think that like he says this word? Do you think he should be fired and his career should be over, or do you think like definitely reprimanded, but like he shouldn't be like wiped from whatever he was doing? Tough question now.
Yeah, no. Personally, I don't believe that his career should be over. I don't think he should be wiped from from NASCAR and things like that, because look, what he did, absolutely wrong. There's really no excuse for that. If you're asking me, shouldn't have said that at all. Fact of the matter is, people do make mistakes, some much greater than others. But are you going to, for one mistake? I mean, if this is something that continued over and over and over again, yeah, he can be done. But I look at him and think that he everything that he's worked for one little mistake to wipe everything out, that's not how it should be. And I look, another example of this was the Papa John's guy a couple of years ago. He used this exact same word on a conference call with the Papa John's Incorporated or whatever, and they took the audio from those calls years after the fact. And they went back through and heard him say it, and his career was over right then. Should he have said it? Absolutely not. Shouldn't have happened. But for his entire career to be over, for everything that he's worked up for, I mean, the face of the company to be wiped away because of that, was it wrong? Yes. Should it have happened? No, it shouldn't have. I don't think people should get just wiped off the face of the earth for something like that. I think it's a little overboard for me, but I do understand coming from a higher up official, whether it's the head of Papa John's, whether it's the head of his NASCAR team or whatever. Like Brad mentioned, you're representing something much bigger than yourself. And so when something like that happens, not only is that person getting in trouble and getting themselves hurt, but those higher up officials have to do something to cover themselves up too, and they have to make the decision that they think is best for them.
So, Sydney, what is your opinion on? Because you kind of brought up like how they went back years after this call happened and like dug up this and canceled him, and I kind of want to talk about cancel culture, and that's something that's definitely been more prevalent. And while I don't think cancel I don't like it personally. I don't like cancel culture in the least bit. I only think because my thing is if you're sexually assaulted someone or if you murdered someone or stuff serious stuff like this, I think that goes beyond cancel culture. I think you just committed a crime and you're gone. I think cancel culture is digging up these things. I mean, it happened to Kevin Hart for I think an insensitive tweet he made towards the LGBT community, so he couldn't host. I believe it was the Oscars or something like that. And that was from almost a decade ago. How bad or good? You may argue that cancel culture is good, Sydney. Which like, what do you think of cancel culture and its impact?
I mean, it really comes down to the media and how they want to, I guess, appease the audience. Because maybe the people who are canceling them don't necessarily want to and they don't see a point in it, but all the viewers, all the LGBTQ community, all of the minorities, they can be really, really angry about it and they want to appease them, which is understandable. But in my opinion, if they don't show like a consistent history of either being homophobic, racist, or whatever it may be, that there is no bounds to be canceled, in my opinion. Though in some people it's warranted, because I mean, with celebrities and especially media online, a lot of their life can be very blurred, and you don't know them at all. So I think it could be a good and a bad thing.
I agree with that 100%, especially with the history part. You know, if you have a history or a track record of saying things like this or voicing your opinions on those things, then yes, I think that it should be applied. But, you know, Brad, I also look at like former or even current NFL players. You know, these teams, they go back and look through their tweets, and, you know, they tweeted something, you know, derogative towards, you know, a race or a gender or something just super stupid and maybe inappropriate. Back when they were in high school or college or something like that, when they're, you know, young and idiotic. Not, again, saying that what they said is right, but, again, people are going to make mistakes, and you definitely make mistakes when you're younger as well. And for, again, a career or an opportunity just to be taken away because of that, you know, unless that behavior is repetitive and you keep scrolling through a Twitter feed or an Instagram feed and you keep seeing, you know, this thing repeating, I don't see why it should happen. I think it's ridiculous. I think it's ridiculous that people on purpose go and seek out those things to ruin somebody, to hurt somebody by going back, you know, 5, 10 years, however long it may be, to find one thing that someone said when they probably weren't thinking, or maybe they were younger, just to hurt this person. And I think is extremely wrong.
Yeah, I think we're all nodding our heads there. I mean, it's a weird. I don't know what drives those people. Like it's. I think those are people, and I don't like to, you know, go after people. But I think those are people who are really unhappy with themselves and their lives, so they just look to ruin other people's. And I think we're kind of seeing a common theme with that throughout all of our topics, because, you know, we talk about, you know, how like these kind of modern feminists are kind of going after people like Sydney who aren't like, you know, what you would call modern feminists, and dragging them down, and then dragging men down as well. And then you go to this whole church thing, and, you know, they're dragging them down. So I feel like there's a really bad problem in our world right now where it's just people are very selfish and dragging people down. But I think that, I mean, honestly, let's be real. That problem has been prevalent through our entire world history. And it's evolved in a way where we're seeing it through the internet. So we're about to wrap things up, but I'd be remiss. So, like we said, you know, this is the CoronaCast, and even though we are not talking about the coronavirus as much anymore, Sydney did, because I mean, me and Sydney had a great conversation about the stuff natural grocers are doing to, you know, fight against the outbreak. You know, how Sydney's life is, you know, working. But then she got sick, and then it possibly was the coronavirus. It was really great, insightful stuff. You know, Sydney was about to blow some minds, I'm sure, and then I just ruined the footage. But Sydney, it was your first week back, or it was 3 days, and you're on your off weekend, Thursday, Friday now. But what was your return like?
I was actually really nervous to go back, because I'm kind of the type of person, if I don't see someone for a little bit, I kind of get off, and I kind of lose that dynamic. And the entire crew, they're all so close, and we're all just like a little family. So I was worried I was gonna be like an outlier coming back, and then I was also worried because there's like a new policy every single day. I was scared that I was gonna be left behind on that, and I had no idea what was going on. But as soon as I walked in, everyone congratulated me back. It was really, really nice. Everyone caught me up on everything. And even some of the regular customers said that they were glad to see me again. So it was really nice.
That's good to hear. Alex, I want to kind of get your thoughts on how, I mean, are you still, how insane are you? Because I kind of want to give I want to ask you both a personal question to kind of end these things. And actually, okay, so I'll ask you how, like, insane you are without sports, because that's your wheelhouse. But I also, one conversation that Sydney and I had that was a funny conversation, because we talked about kombucha, and she got me kombucha from, like, natural grocers, and I tried it, and it was awful. Hated it. She loves it. I hated it. Have you tried kombucha, Alex?
I have not. I can't say I have.
So,
Sydney, do you want to, like, preach the gospel of kombucha to him and get him to confirm? I don't know.
There's plenty of, like, health benefits that kombucha has, but the main thing is just to help with your digestion. So if, like, you're gonna eat, like, kind of a sketchy meal, it would be good to, like, have kombucha before or during to help your stomach.
Well, desperate times call for desperate measures, I guess. So maybe I should go buy some.
You in desperate times right now, Alex?
No, just down the road. You never know.
Okay. All right. Good to hear your digestive system hasn't failed you. But I'm saying the taste. I don't know, man. Well, because the thing is,
it just depends. It depends on which one you get. Like I said.
Well, I mean,
are there flavors?
Yeah, there's Dr. Pepper flavored. This is our sponsor for today. There's like a Dr. Pepper. There's a Dr. Pepper flavor. There's Coke. There's like root beer. There's like watermelon something. Like she got me like four or five, and I hated all of them.
Oh, wow.
That tells you anything.
Huh? Well, that's
Wait, you know the kombucha girl on TikTok?
Oh yeah, I know her. Yeah.
Yeah, she was trying the live kombucha soda, which I had him try. I think it was the Dr. Pepper one too that she was trying. But that's like the beginner kombucha for a lot of people because it's not so vinegary. And it's sweetened with monk fruit, so it tastes a little bit sweeter than like actual soda. And that's what I got him, and that's why I assumed that he would like to begin with, but he did not.
Well,
what can I say?
I'm proud of you for trying, Brad. That's all that matters.
I was terrified. I am someone who has taste buds that are very, as we would say in probably identity politics when referring to taste buds, white. Very, plain, whatever, and so this was a whole new frontier for me. It wasn't, I mean, well, what can I say? I can't say anything. But I wish I liked it because I do, like, I understand the health benefits, and I don't know, man. I think I've just been like 20 straight years, or 21 now, of just eating garbage and drinking garbage. The moment I try to have something that's good for me, it tastes like medicine or worse.
How do you reject it?
Yeah. So.
I mean, I was the same way when I first started Natural Grocers. I had probably the worst diet. I had worked at the mall before Natural Grocers and eat like those pretzel nuggets every single day for lunch. Like that was my diet, was just food court food. And that's awful for you to begin with. And so like the first time I tried kombucha, I hated it. It's an acquired taste because it is so vinegary, but it's just kind of an environment.
What's the point of so here's the thing. What's the point of acquired taste? Because like coffee's an acquired taste, kombucha's an acquired taste. I know this is this is going on ASU TV and we shouldn't talk about these things, but beer I feel like is an acquired taste. I hate beer. I tried Blue Moon, which is your favorite, and while it was the best beer I've had, it was still terrible. What can I say? I like tropical stuff. My taste buds are very not only white, but as we would refer to in identity politics, female. Basic white girl. My order at Starbucks is like a venti white chocolate mocha frappuccino with caramel and mocha drizzle in and out.
I'm completely opposite.
Why?
I would drink like black coffee over a frappuccino any day.
No, I would never drink plain coffee over that. I would side with the frappuccino or a mocha or something like that.
No.
I drink coffee every day. That's the only way I can survive all these morning shifts.
I do feel that. I wish I could drink plain coffee. I wish I could. Just straight black coffee, but I can't do it.
Well, and
it also helps your metabolism too.
Why is everything so healthy taste terrible?
Yeah.
That's just life, I guess.
Like the only healthy things that I feel like I like are crunchy water, aka lettuce, and I guess celery would be crunchy water too. But I hate celery. And then like green beans, broccoli's okay sometimes, especially with cheese. But then you lose all the health if you eat it with like
Well, it's expensive to eat healthy too. That's the sad thing. Like even if you wanted to eat healthy, it's way more expensive to do that than to go out and just buy like crap.
Well,
that is not the case.
What are you talking? So you're saying like, wait, what? Okay, no, okay. So I understand. Like fast food, like crap. Like you can, if you go to natural grocers and buy ingredients and cook. I understand you can probably do that cheaper than if you go to get a meal at like Taco Bell or Wendy's or Five Guys or whatever. But I mean, like I feel like you can get cheaper, more or less healthy ingredients from like I don't know, like Walmart or Kroger. Go shop at Natural Grocers, by the way. They're a great company, and I want to endorse them. I'm going to flash their logo up right here. But, Natural Grocers is like, and whole places like Whole Foods are known to be hecka expensive.
You just have to find the right product. And you can find some of the same product at like Walmart and Aldi. Like, you don't just have to shop at Natural Grocers. There's some like overlying products that even Dollar General has. And for the most part, if like you sign up for our rewards, some of the stuff is not that more expensive than conventional stuff, and especially our produce. I will hype on my produce any day. It's almost the same price as anywhere else, and it's so much better for you.
So Alex, I think when we go back to school, which I still have no like idea where I'm living, so I might be homeless, but when we go back to school and we're gonna go grocery shopping at Natural Grocers. We're gonna.
Hey.
Wait, where are you living next semester?
I'm in Red Wolfton.
So you have a oven,
kitchen,
and
a fridge.
Let's go. Yeah. We're gonna go shop at Natural Grocers.
And you won't be. You can live on my couch too.
Bet. All right, I know where I'm living next semester.
It's all set. It's all set.
A-State, I am not gonna live on his couch. So you know.
No,
don't
right.
know. No,
yeah.
I'm not gonna live. I might spend the night or 1,000. Yeah. But don't evict me. All right. But yeah, so Sydney will help us. I feel like that's a good vlog. That'll be a special edition of the CoronaCast. So
live from Natural Grocers. That's what we need to do.
And so this is something to end the episode about the CoronaCast that I want to ask, because as much as interviewing Dr. Merritt's cool and having rotating people on is fun, I think having I know me and Alex are the core, and maybe we can bump it up to a 4-person, but. Yeah. I feel like we need a solid third person, and Sydney expressed her interest in being here often. Now, are you wanting to be here every week, or do you not like me and Alex that much? Which is understandable. I mean, I don't.
I don't mind to do it every week.
All right, Alex, what do you say? This is a democracy. Is she a permanent third?
I am more than happy to have her as a permanent third.
All right, see, diversity. Now, we have. I think. Yeah, now we have a permanent woman to shut us up when we're being stupid.
There we go.
We're here. So yeah, well, I guess if we have 4 people, Alex, I'm gonna have to start. I have to design another. Yeah, but hey, whatever. Hey, I don't have to do it this week. Not
this week.
Yes. Okay, so that works. All right. So I mean, that's everything I have. I mean, let's see. This has gone on for about an hour. I think this is the longest edition of CoronaCast we've had so far.
Oh wow.
So, I mean, we've had lots of interesting conversations. I'm so glad we're not talking about the coronavirus anymore. I mean, it's
yeah, I'm kind of the same way. I mean, it's out there. It's still there. Still be safe. But, it's old news now.
Yeah, it's out of style. Just open everything out. We're tired of it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, guys, thanks for joining me. I guess Sydney will be back here next week with whatever controversial topics we'll talk about. And this is a much more tame ending than me talking about Tinder. Like, Sydney, you need to go watch that actual episode 3, because that was that went off the rails.
From probably the last 15 to 20, I don't even, probably 15 minutes was absolutely wild.
I don't know what happened, man. Well, I do know what happened. I pointed to what was in my hand. That was it was a drink that wasn't Dr. Pepper.
It was a great time. It was a great time.
So it was a great time, and we'll have another great time. Episode 5. I may bring another drink that's not Dr. Pepper. I don't know. We'll be taking off ASU TV in no time. Thank you, Galen Parkins. So yeah, I've dragged this outro out way too long, but whatever. So Sydney Miles, our newest permanent co-host. Alex Galbraith, our always permanent co-host. Me, here for some reason.
The host.
Yeah, except the kind of host. One of these episodes, Alex, we're going to have you host. So you're going to introduce everything. You're going to be the moderator.
Okay.
Right?
I'll look forward to it.
That'll actually be the next episode. I'll suggest stuff, but you can host it.
All right, sounds like a plan. Let's do it.
All right, sounds good. And then Sydney can do episode 6. All right. All right, thanks for watching. We'll see you next week on episode 5. And yeah, see you then.